If you're not familiar with the Malabrigo line, it is definitely a luxury yarn as far as it's maybe one of the more popular local yarn store kind of yarn. So almost all local yarn stores carry the Malabrigo yarn, and they have some luscious bases. This is the Arroyo in the colorway Choco. Isn't that pretty? So it is definitely kind of giving the hand dyed vibes, but it is definitely not a hand dyed yarn. This is a machine washable, cold water, gentle cycle, and it is, if I recall correctly, a 100% superwash merino wool. DK slash sport weight. That's what it's listed as. So we'll have to do our little gauge and see what it actually comes up as. So join me over at the table and let's dive right in with the Malabrigo Arroyo. Here is our caked up Malabrigo Arroyo in the colorway Choco. I think this is a very lovely example of tonal colorways. And I'm going to be doing a little more discussion on that. We have our Fiber 101 video, and let me know if you want to have additional conversations about different yarn properties. But this is a 100% superwashed merino wool, and we're going to see if it passes the itch test and do a little swatching, do a little bracelet maybe and wear it around just to kind of see if, I get that irritation on the skin. But Malabrigo is a very lovely line, and it is available primarily in local yarn stores, but you can also get it online at places like yarn.com or lovecrafts.com, which sells a lot of the various options available. Now, I did pick this up at a local yarn store, and I actually picked up the brown to work on some denim jackets with it. I don't know if I'm going to stick to that idea because I tend to like to do something with a little bit more color rather than more of a solid weight, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with it for sure. I may use it as maybe an accent color in addition. This is giving me slight purple tones in there, so I think if I paired it with a purple, it would actually look really, really pretty, or even possibly an orange. Like a dark orange. I don't know. I would have to see. And this is, I am using the 4mm crochet hook on this because it is a DK slash sport weight. It is rated as both. So let's pull out our guide real quick as we're working on this and see where it falls to see if it's more of a DK, more of a sport, or they're kind of spot on in that it's really pretty much right in the middle there. Okay, here's our gauge, and just to remind you, this is the DK line right here, and this is the sport weight line. So let's try the sport first. Meh. It's kind of filling that up. I would definitely say I would call this more of the DK. It was just a little bit too full on the sport weight, so I think I would put it as a DK weight. Now, if you're not familiar with the Malabrigo line, they have a lot of different yarns in their line. And one of the top 10 yarns for the most number of projects made on Ravelry is the Malabrigo Rios, which is kind of the big sister to the Malabrigo Arroyo in that it is the same makeup. It just happens to be in a worsted weight instead of the DK weight. I tend to like the DK weights. The DK weights generally tend to work better for the denim jackets and the sport weights. But if you like the warmer ones, then the Rios is definitely going to be the one that you're going to want to pick up. Now, with the Arroyo, there were over 50,000 projects on Ravelry. 50,000. To me, that is just phenomenal. I mean, a lot of people are using this yarn. Okay, I got hung up there. I wouldn't call it a split. I kind of went in between the wrong stitches. I don't define that as a split. It just slowed me down as I went in the wrong spot. Of those 50,000 projects, though, only 2,000 of the projects are used for crochet. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I do think that most crocheters tend to avoid the local yarn stores. They tend to go to more of the big box stores where they can get the less expensive yarns. And they're not crocheting wearables nearly as much as knitters will crochet. So therefore, I don't think this falls on a lot of crocheters' radar. And I don't think that is, I mean, I think that's kind of sad because so far I'm enjoying it. It has a nice soft, it doesn't give me that itchy, scratchy vibe that some wools will, even super marine, oosh, I can't talk today. Even some Superwash Merino wools will give me that itchy, scratchy vibe. But I'm not getting any of this whatsoever from this. One of the things that I do absolutely love about the Malabrigo line is that when you want something that gives that hand-dyed look, but you don't want the hand-dyed price range, the Malabrigo can be a happy medium. Hand-dyed yarns often run around $35 to $40 a skein. Malabrigo, wait, oops, I think I'm at 4 there. Yes. Am I? Again. I don't know. I'm so bad at counting my singles. We're going to go with it. Malabrigo is, instead of, it's still very, very pricey. Don't get me wrong. It is not a budget-friendly or even a mid-range kind of price. So it's definitely something to factor in when you're looking at spending that. But if you want something that is less expensive than a hand-dyed yarn, then $22 a skein for this versus $35 a skein might be that kind of, okay, I'm willing to give that a shot. Now, I certainly wouldn't use it for things like blankets. That's going to be a huge yarn eater. And sometimes I think that's why crocheters don't use it, because crochet tends to use so much more yarn than knit does. So we have to buy more, which means it's going to cost us more. And that can definitely be an overall deterrent to using some of these nicer yarns when we're looking at making some crochet wearables. All right, let's do our double crochet and we will meet back here for the scores. All right, how'd you like that little tune playing on that high speed? There we've got our double crochet, and you can actually see some of the color changes coming in here. A little bit in there, and I just think that's really, really lovely. Now let's give this our scores. The yarn is the Malabrigo Arroyo. Oops, there's 2 R's, but yeah, you got me. The hook size was a 4mm. It is listed as a 2/3 DK Sport. We're going to put that in the DK. Now, as a Superwash Merino wool, this actually gets a 5 for our fiber content. Now, and for the feel, I have to say that it actually feels very, very nice. Even a lot of superwashes for me have a tendency to be a little bit on the itchy side, and this does not have any of that itchy scratchy. It's not the softest yarn I've ever felt, but it is definitely much nicer. Now, color range. Let me put this up here for you. This is an astounding 86 colors in the Arroyo. That is incredible. And many of them have that very hand-dyed feel to them. So this is like a 5 and then some. I mean, that's just incredible. All right, let's talk about the splitting. I did not get any true splits at all, but I am going to give this a 4.5 because I got that sense that a split could certainly happen. So while I'm not going to take off fully that any splits happened, I definitely felt that a little bit of that urge. Stitch definition. I mean, this is pretty crisp overall. I can definitely see every one of these little bumps. It doesn't get fuzzy. It doesn't get blurred. Is it like impeccable? No, I'm not going to give it a 5, but I think I will definitely give that a 4. All right, drape. Let's see here. Now, I am really thinking maybe I only did 3 on this. You guys need to start helping me out somehow figuring out. I can count them on this easily, but this, yeah, not so much. I have a hard time seeing them. Okay, let's see here. Oh, look at that. I mean, there's some curl in there, but even with the curl, it falls quite easily. So it's got a very lovely drape. It's not liquid. I'm going to definitely put this in a 4. Frogability. I'm a little nervous about this. Let's see here. Okay, that's not bad. It's really not. I would say on the Frogability, it's not a 5 for sure, because there is some tug overall when I pull those out. But I think that I can safely give that a 4. Ooh, this yarn, other than the price, it might be like really up there for me. Let's see. I should start doing like a guess at the beginning. Let's guess before I finish this. Oh, it's too late for this one. In future episodes, I think I'm going to try and guess what the score is going to be before we get there. All right, 4. Now, washability. Because this is a Superwash Merino, that means that it's been treated so that it can be washed. You still want to handle it with care, but it can be machine washed, lay flat to dry. So we're going to give that the 3. Okay. On the price. Let's talk about this here. So this is 335 yards, which is a decent amount of yarn. and the price point on it is $21.99. So our price per yard comes out to 6.5 cents. Rounding that up to 7, that puts us in the mid-range. Now, of course, if you can find it on sale, which it doesn't tend to be on sale that often, but that might help out a little bit now and then, and just kind of keep that in mind. Now, I'm tempted to give this a bonus point just because it gives me that high-end yarn feel without the high-end yarn budget. It is definitely still a mid-range yarn, but it makes me feel like I get to be a little bit more luxurious than just the average kinds of yarn. But I am going to deduct 1 point just because it comes in a hank and it has to be wound. I mean, that just slows us down, right? But all of the good yarns come in hanks, so there you go. All right, let's do our math. Cue the elevator music. All right, we get 35. For a 3.8. All right, I'm actually a little bit surprised on that. I expected it to do a little bit better, but almost all of the categories are in 4s. And then we get to this price point, which really kind of detracts us overall. Would I buy this yarn again? 100% yes, I would. I'm not going to put it in Farrah's favorites because it did not hit the 4.0. But it is a very lovely yarn, and if I'm kind of debating this versus a higher priced hand-dyed yarn, I mean, this at least makes me not feel so bad about spending the money. So I love this yarn, and I definitely would make a garment out of it that would be near my skin. But I can't put it in Farrah's favorites. It's only a 3.8. And this down here, this is why. Let me know if you've ever used a Malabrigo yarn and what you thought of it. If you'd give it a try, even at that price point, or if that price point is just a big no-go for you. I always love to hear your feedback on these. Thanks so much, and Farrah, frog us out of here.